I'm Peter Jones, editor at County Deer Stalking. In this month's film, I'm stalking fallow deer in Oxfordshire. It's March and the end of the doe season is fast approaching. The rifle I'm using is a Sauer 202 Elegance in 243 caliber, fitted with a Swarovski Z4i scope and ATEC moderator. At this time of year, the deer are flighty and nervous, and so I have to be quick and take my opportunities where I find them. I'll also be discussing shot placement and show you the consequences of the dreaded gut shot. Okay, so here we are here in Oxfordshire. We're stalking fallow. Now with fallow at this time of year, this is March, segregated into two groups, and that will be buck herds and doe herds. The doe herds at this time of year actually make a very large number of animals in one group, and that's because they also keep with them the first and second year fawns, including the buck fawns as well. But we've got a big deer problem here in Oxfordshire, and this illustrates it really nicely. We can see here, just this is a path coming out of one stretch of woodland into the next, and the amount of slots here indicate a huge number of deer passing here on a regular basis. To make that point still further, if we just move just a couple of yards down to my left, and here we can see just literally the other side of that sapling, and we've got another yard and a half, I suppose, of animals where they've been crossing on a regular basis. Huge numbers of deer, big problems in Oxfordshire with fallow deer.
I expect he's disappeared. Beautiful roebuck, lovely big antlers in velvet, gags on it, way above his ears. Just standing there on the ride looking straight at us. I suspect we've been asked not to shoot the roebuck, so we're just after fallow particularly. So we're going to be after fallow buck, fallow does. If we see muntjac as well, we'll take those. Great big group of fallow just about 50 yards down there. I was concerning myself with stuff off to the left, as is typical. Another group of about half a dozen fallow were sitting there, but the moment they saw me, we'll carry on up here a little bit and we'll just see if we can cut them off that way, I think.
Got a bit of a sad example here. Now we're in a little bit of wood here that is about 50 acres, and it's surrounded by fields. I'm sorry to say that whilst we've got the wood, we haven't got the fields that surround it. Now what's happened here is that perhaps one of the stalkers have taken a shot that they're not too proud of, and this is what we can see is a rather tragic result. I don't want to be holier than thou about this. We've all made shots that we're not proud of, and if you stalk deer for long enough, accidents are going to happen. But this is really a very good example of why you should always place your shot further forward, not too far back. When you're looking at a deer, it's very easy to aim for the mass of the body. Don't be tempted to do that. Come forward. If you aim at the mass of the body, it's going to draw your shot to the gut. And this is exactly what the result is. So we can see here, we've got an adult fallow deer, and this is our exit wound, I would suspect, and that is really very low and too far back. The ideal shot placement is here, and yet it's been placed here. As I say, we all make mistakes. It does happen. You stalk deer for long enough, these sort of accidents can happen. The important thing is retrieving that animal if you can. What I think has happened on this occasion is that this animal has run into a bit of woodland which they don't own. They've been reluctant to follow it in. We haven't been contacted, sadly, to know that there's an injured deer on our ground. And it's obviously come in here, it's run with the herd. It may have run some distance, I don't know. And then gradually it's expired through a very nasty wound here. Sadly, a very long, slow, horrible death. So keep your shots further forward, up here, or even further forward if you need to. Around 100 yards off into the evergreens, I spot some movement. Further observation reveals a small group of fallow couched up under the trees ahead. We've been very, very lucky there actually. We spotted
spotted some deer down here, just up here in the woodland, and I just, first of all, all we did is we saw, I just spotted a head down here, just looking up at me. I've had to edge up, but obviously what's happened there is they've just caught wind of me or sight of me, and they've come dashing off down to the left. Now this is highly unusual because there's a long ride down here. I don't know if you can see it, straight the way through here, and just as pure chance has it, one of them just stopped down in the middle of that ride about 60 yards down. Now very unusual, wouldn't normally recommend this because normally we try and get a rest for the rifle, but with that deer stopped down there I had absolutely no chance to go for my sticks, so I've managed to take a kneeling shot, and you can see, I'm pleased to say, that animal has dropped to the shot and is lying down with its back to us. You might just be able to see it down the ride there, about well, I'm guessing maybe that might be 70 or 80 yards. As I say, very unusual, wouldn't normally recommend taking a shot offhand like that, but you know, we really, with fallow, they're so skittish, we've really got to take our opportunities when we can get them. So what we'll do here is we'll give it a customary sort of 5 minutes. I can see that that animal is down anyway, so I'm confident that we've got a good shot here, but we're going to give it a customary 5 minutes, let that animal bleed out, and then we're going to go and follow it up.
Okay, so here we are, we've found our animal, we've come up the ride about 80 yards, and here we are. We can instantly see we've got a fallow deer. What I'm going to do straight away is just do what we call the eye blink test. So you touch the eye with your sticks and you're checking that it's not blinking. Okay, if it doesn't blink, it means it's brain dead, it's died, and you're good to go. So that animal is expired. So the next thing all we're going to do is unload the rifle. Always point your rifle at the ground when you're unloading it or loading it. Take out the magazine. Pop that magazine away. And we'll leave that bolt open. That way anyone that's approaches can see that that is an unloaded rifle. Now let's have a closer look at this animal. It's quite interesting. This is actually, looks to me, you can see from the size of the face and the size of the animal that this is actually a fawn. Okay, I say a fawn, it's at that time of year where we might be starting to call them yearlings, but that is usually once it comes on into the start of the buck season. So what we've got here, we've got a doe fawn. I can see that because she's very short in the face, and it's also very light. Added to that, we've got what we describe as a common fallow. And when I say common, I'm talking about the colour variety here. There are different types of colour that fallow can be, and that is white, menalistic, menal, and common. Okay, now this is a common variety, and we know that because of the coloration. It's winter coloration, dark on the back and lighter underbelly here. In the summer this would be much more chestnutty brown with dappled spots and a lighter underbelly here as well. The other reason we can tell is when we look at the rear end, we have this horseshoe shape. So we have a dark coloration around the rump, and we also have a dark tail here with a whiter underside. So that's a good example of a common variety fallow. We'll check the sex, and we can see as we approach it that we've got an udder, signs of an udder, and that obviously means that we have a doe, so that further reinforces that point there. The other thing which is interesting is it's not milky at all, another good indication that she hasn't had young this year, and that would also indicate that it was a doe fawn rather than an animal that was older. Good. So coming back onto this deer, so we know where we've come down the ride here, and we can see this is actually what we call the exit wound. Okay, the animal was facing in this direction, so this is our exit wound. We'll turn it over and we can see here's the entry wound. Now I have to admit here, this is perhaps an 80-yard shot offhand. My aim was for a heart-lung shot. Okay, so I've been a little bit lucky here, and this is another good example of why we should always be trying to look for a stable rest when we take a shot. I've taken the shot kneeling, about 80 yards, and I've come a little bit far too far forward, which is why we've ended up with a neck shot. But nonetheless, I'm pleased to say a good successful shot, and another good example of why we should always be forward rather than too far back. Too far back, gut shot is a worry, but I've come too far forward here and we've just taken it in the neck.